My name is Sterling Hart, and this is Dreamlight, where we work on dream interpretation and using the insights in the waking life. What does space mean in dreams, either big or small spaces? Big spaces tend to represent power and opening up, but it can also represent distance in time or even in relationships. Small spaces tend to indicate pressure and constriction. If you have claustrophobia, it can indicate fear and anxiety, but it can also mean focus or hiding or even protection. Let's look at big spaces. Spaciousness allows you to expand. There are possibilities. People will tend to relax more in open spaces. It can represent wealth and power as well. It can be awe-inspiring. A larger house or hotel room is the more expensive. If the hotel has a large, spacious lobby, it tends to give the impression of wealth and luxury. The Star Wars movies use space to represent the power of the Empire. If you have an open, spacious room, it tends to give you freedom to move and do things. If the space is emptiness and the mood is one of emotional emptiness, then the space can represent feelings of loneliness or desolation, such as with grief or the ending of something. It can also represent distance. Big open spaces in nature can represent a long distance requiring greater effort or a longer time. It can represent the unknown as it must be explored. Sometimes it shows you things in the distance that you can see from a long way off, such as the coming of life transitions that you are starting to prepare for. You can have a growing distance between you and another person, the relational space. Sometimes we say that we need space, meaning we need to be away from the relationship for a time. There is an image from the classic movie of Citizen Kane where the couple is seated at a table, and over time they are seated further and further apart in the successive scenes. The same could be said of the symbolism of Putin isolated in his own space, far from his advisors. It can indicate a distance or the act of distancing yourself from a role you are playing, such as one at work or some event in your memory. We need space and distance from some events in order to process them. Big open spaces can also mean exposure. You can be seen from a long way off. There is no protection. There are also vast spaces such as an ocean or a view from a high place. This vastness can bring a sense of peace or timelessness. What about constricted spaces? Constricted spaces are uncomfortable for the most part, but there is an idea of being snug, being the right size and fitting it. They can also represent being stifled, but it has the double meaning of having potential that can be released under the right conditions, inwardly or outwardly. Caves can be representative of concealing things. Also, there is a notion of primitive or dark things, underground or dormant. They need exposure to light to have room to grow. A constricted or tight space can represent a pressure of some sort, a limitation, a restriction, being oppressed or pushed down, like the walls are caving in, feeling trapped. Small spaces can represent danger or weakness. For instance, in the movie The Boat, it uses the cramped spaces of the submarine to produce a feeling of tension, dread, fear, or cruel fate. Is there room in your heart, or is your mind narrow? Do you feel constricted in some way? Do you realize that you can be more? Are you caught up in circumstances and haven't awakened fully to your situation yet? Is the dream making you aware of pressure or of growth? Are the walls closing in? For instance, my friend had a dream where he was in a hotel and went down to the lobby, which was very busy with new arrivals. It was noisy and crowded, so he went through a set of doors and came to the back of the hotel. He realized that the pool was in the front of the hotel, but out back it was a wide enclosed area. He could barely see the far wall. There were people lifting weights clustered in one spot, and there were various shelters in the distance like it was a park. Upon questioning, the dreamer said that he associated hotels with temporary places. For him, the hotel was work-related because his family wasn't present. The crowded lobby reminded him of a time when he was traveling and there was an airline strike. The hotels became crowded, not like in the dream, with a rush in the lobby, but he had trouble getting a room and was stranded for several days. He associated the pool with escaping. He liked to swim and he would go early in the morning. In the dream, he seemed to be turning away from trying to escape. He thought of weightlifting as doing work, doing the heavy lifting. In the dream, there was a group of men clustered in one spot. The big space in the back of the hotel was a surprise in the dream. It was very open, and he didn't think that would be part of a hotel, unless it was a golf course. It struck him that around the hotel, the real estate should be very developed. He associated the dream with a work situation. At his job, someone had left his department for a different position in another part of the company. So his workload increased, but they had told him that they weren't going to replace the person anytime soon. He thought that was what the lobby represented. Instead of having open spaces to fill, there were too many people trying to get rooms. In waking life, there was too much work for the people to do. Then the not going to the swimming pool was to him just trying to escape or ignore the problem and not make waves. Instead, he goes out the back and sees people working. He realized he was thinking of changing jobs or shifting to another department, and he could see there were many opportunities as it was wide open. Another example is one of mine. I had a dream where I was driving down a road and it approached a tunnel. As I got there, it kept going smaller and smaller, and the car was being crushed. And it began to press down on me, but still I kept going, thinking I would soon be out the other end. After examining the dream, I realized that I had been working to understand a set of concepts for a project, and I really didn't understand them. There was no clear explanation I could find. It was always convoluted. I realized that if I kept persevering, because I figured sooner or later I would figure them out. So to me, the vehicle kept going, and I needed to pass through this barrier in order to make it to the other side. So I was prepared. Even when the car was being crushed, I would just keep going. A friend had a dream where she was a teenager and was told to go to her room. She went there but found the room was a third of the size it had been. Her mom said, "You need to close the door." The dreamer said that she felt like she was in high school about 20 years earlier, but her mom in high school wouldn't have told her to go to her room. That was something more like early grade school when she was 8 years old or younger. When she thought about this, she remembered being sent to her room. The only time she remembered why she was punished was when she and her sister had gotten into an argument and had tried to outshout each other. It was more of a game, but her mom had reacted to it by punishing them. The small size reminded her of visiting her old grade school. In high school, her class had gone to the grade school to present a project. When she went into her old classroom, she thought about the desks and chairs. They were tiny, not like she remembered them. She then related this to thoughts she had about her upbringing. She felt like she had been brought up in a very sheltered way. Her world was very small. She had met several people recently, and they had very different life experiences and had traveled and lived in many different places. This is also linked to thinking about changing careers. She was a school teacher and was burned out from some of the parents. She realized that she had not really considered pursuing other careers because she had not been exposed to them much. Her mom had been part of a teacher, and her dad was a mail carrier. So the small room and spaces she felt was the way that she was looking back on her life. She realized she hadn't been encouraged to express herself and was taught not to bring attention to herself either. So with space, the main thing to look for is the mood, either good or bad, and seeing what position that puts you in. Then you can more easily relate it to the waking life situations. If you got something out of this video, please hit like. If you want more dreams, please subscribe. Till next time.